It's 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Lingao, and some stories we're watching this Tuesday, August 6. A recent survey of OCTA research shows Filipinos identifying as pro-Marcos has increased to 36% from 31, I believe, if I'm right. On the other hand, those identifying as Pro-Duterte has gone down to 16% from 20. 31% of Filipinos identified as independents. The survey was conducted from June 26 to July 1, 2024 with 1,200 respondents. Former presidential spokesman Harry Roque and 11 others have been placed under an immigration lookout bulletin order. This is over potential violations of anti-trafficking laws involving POGO incorporators and officers. Roque has denounced the order as, and we quote, harassment and a political maneuver to silence him.
And China's artificial island at Subi Reef in the West Philippine Sea now has extensive infrastructure such as a runway, a seaport, and high-rise buildings. This was discovered during a recent aerial mission by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BIFAR. Subi Reef is almost directly opposite Pag-asa Island, which is held by the Philippines.
And joining us today, Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, and of course, Storycon's resident political pundit, Tito Ronald Llamas.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Ano, hindi tayo naka-gold kanina madaling araw pala.
Pinuyat ka.
Oo nga.
Hirap paliwanag.
Minsan ka lang magsa-special coverage sa sports na alam naman natin kung gaano ka-extensive ang kaalaman mo sa sports, ano?
Baka ikaw may balat.
Oo nga.
Loko kayo.
Malas
Ang
kaya
hirap
ka.
paliwanag sa misis ko.
Ayaw nila maniwala na may special coverage ka sa sports, Olympics.
Na ako yung ako nag-aangko ng sports. Pag uwi ko ng bahay, mga alas 4:30 sabi sa akin, ba't ngayon ka lang? Di ba nag-aangko ako? Nunod ako sa inyo may sports cast nagsasalita. Hindi, news break lang ako. Sa studio ako. Hindi. Parang walang tiwala.
Kasi hating gabi, Bok, ano? Ano yung papasado alas 12?
Alauna.
Right.
At 12 sila. At sa huli, nanaig pa rin yung The Flying Hobbit, si
Duplantis.
Duplantis. Matindi,
Ami, Keo, anong front page ng Philippine Star? Anong nasa front page? Sa layout pa lang, ano? Bukas to lalabas.
Dadagdagan ko lang yung reclamation story nyo in the West Philippine Sea. Pati yung mga number of Chinese ships, dumami na naman, nag-spike. Yan. Tapos, lahat na daw ng schools ngayon, kahapon may 42 pa na hindi nakakapagbukas. Pero ngayon, lahat na daw bukas.
I wonder
And
if
24 million students ang nag-enroll. Medyo kulang pa yon sa target, pero marami naman dyan na late lang eh.
Saan ba, Ami, kinuha yung pang-reclaim ng isla? Sa Pilipinas din? Ha? Para na...
Usapan yun, di ba?
Balita ko, banda rito kinuha yan eh.
Banda saan?
Dapat investigahan
Saka
yan.
kung gusto nyo, yung mga old cases, yung Sandigan Bayan, remember Carlos Garcia, yung former controller ng AFP?
Right. Major
Meron
General.
ng writ of execution ng Sandigan Bayan. Pinayagan na, sinisingil siya, magbayad na daw siya ng fines over 400 million. Na-fine pa lang yon. Pero although yung ill-gotten wealth na amount na ina-attribute sa kanya, over 300 million.
Okay, going back to the Chinese installation or the artificial island sa Subi Reef, I wonder if we can show the videos, producers. But anyway, nakita ko, medyo impressive.
Oo.
Parang may SM.
Yan!
May SM,
Oo.
Para sa kwan eh, parang Pogo Hub.
Parang Pogo nga, parang Pogo.
Dahil building,
Diba?
parang Pogo Hub. Nasa
Diba?
kaya yung kwan dyan,
Pogo
yung
Hub.
torture chamber.
But it's interesting to point out yung tribunal ruling on this among other artificial islands is that they are still considered, kahit ganyan ang itsura ng mga yan at kahit clearly above high
It's
tide elevation.
considered a rock.
Hindi.
Nagsimula siya rock eh.
No, Bok. Ano yan? They're low tide elevations. They are not,
Kaya nga, exactly nga. Paano ang decision sa UNCLOS, yung lifeless rock na ginawa mong island ay style bulok. Hindi pwedeng gamitin yun.
No, the question, I guess, is it entitled to territorial waters of 9? Nautical
12.
12.
Hindi.
Okay.
Hindi.
No. Bok, sorry.
Hindi.
I read up a bit on this. Ang findings nila sa artificial islands, they're low tide elevations.
Okay.
Therefore, not even rocks. Ang Pag-asa is considered a rock.
Okay, so which means to say
They
na
don't get any
walang
entitlements.
territorial water yan.
Nothing at all.
They're not entitled.
So even if they built this up into an artificial island, wala ka pa ring karapatan daw dyan at wala ka pa ring territorial sea.
So ang pecking order niya, Bok, island, rock, and low tide elevation.
Which means everything that's
Below sea level.
walang entitlements.
Below sea levels. At saka yung...
low tide elevation, ito yung lulubog lilitaw kung tawagin.
Pag high tide,
Right.
wala siya sa, hindi mo makikita.
At saka hindi nagpo-provide ng life.
Right. Well, even the rocks, I think,
Tulad
don't
yan,
provide life.
Exactly.
Pero this is even lower, at the lower category than a rock.
Yeah. Pero ang rock kasi, ang rock like yung, I think Scarborough, you're entitled to 12 nautical miles na territory.
In Scarborough, what makes it different? Because it's a rock.
Shoal yun, eh.
Precisely,
Kasi
it's a rock.
nakausli siya. pag
Well,
high tide.
depende kung anong klaseng rock. Kung lifeless rock siya.
Yun.
Yun yung definition nila.
Then you're a rock talaga. But if you can sustain life, then you become
Kaya
an
coral
island.
yan eh.
Island, right. So island nga, island, rock, low tide elevation.
But ang
what we're
findings
seeing
nila-
right now in Subi, medyo...
It's a complex.
It's ang galing talaga, no?
Meron bang shoe mart yan?
Oo,
Parang may shoe mart eh. Oh.
Barangay na yan eh. Barangay.
Parang buwan eh.
Ronald, believe ka rin sa
Barangay na yan.
capability of China to build facilities and installations. Like, remember in COVID, yung overnight ata o ilang araw
Yung
nila
hospital.
tinayo yung isang hospital na pangmalakihan para
Yes,
sa COVID.
yes.
Pero Bok, nung bumagsak yung ospital na yun, daming patay.
Oo, gumuho yun.
Gumuho eh. Oo. Well, it was an
Well,
emergency.
let's see. Let's see. Dito.
Pero mukhang they have the best reclamation machines.
Or technology.
And ingredients coming from the Philippines.
Yes.
Oo. Ayun lang galing yata sa atin yung mga lupa.
Di ba yung black sand galing daw sa Pangasinan?
Kaya
Di ba
tinatanong
yung
ko
black
si
sand
Ami
niya
eh.
galing sa Pangasinan?
Ang Gasinan, Sambales, no?
Cagayan.
Oh,
I think
doon nga daw
Cagayan.
galing eh. Doon nga daw
Meron ba doon?
galing. In
Hindi,
fact, meron,
landlocked yun eh.
Hindi, Cagayan.
meron
Yung
silang
coastal sa taas.
tinuturo actually ng mga businessmen dito involved in it eh. Businessmen and politicians. Pero hindi natuloy-tuloy yung investigasyon, ano?
Oo,
Well
dapat,
connected yata.
dapat simulan ulit.
Dapat ulitin, no?
Tapos ang
Nung
interesting...
previous administration yun, hindi natuloy eh. Baka dapat buksan nila uli ngayon.
This was shot out of a BFAR plane.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
just surprised, Bok, na nakalapit
Oo
yung
nga eh.
BFAR plane ng ganun.
Oo
Kalapit
nga
dyan sa Subi Reef na
Hindi
yan.
na pabagsak.
Malapit, malapit yung lipad nila. Malapit yung lipad nila. Buti hindi sila na-target o pinagsabihan o ginit-git man lang o ng...
Dahil alam ko, may mga missile silos yan eh. Yung mga artificial islands na yan.
Yan.
But they wouldn't naman siguro go that far na, ano, kasi yun talaga total war na yun.
How about what are we looking right now,
Militia
Ami?
vessels. No?
That's a fleet.
Yes.
These are recent images that we're looking
Oo
at.
nga
The swarming of
Swarm yan,
maritime vessels.
Oo.
Kahapon daw. Galing daw kahapon yung mga
Oh,
video.
kahapon. Kahapon, pinalabas yan sa
Ganda,
TV5.
Ang ganda. Ronald.
Oh, may
Yan,
pinadala si Ray Powell kanina eh. Nandiyan na naman yung yung monster Coast Guard ship ng China.
Monster talaga tao.
Hindi gagamit siya ng missile, anti-aircraft missile. Ginagamit lang nila itak. Kayo naman eh.
Tsaka Yantok.
Hindi pwedeng gumamit ng armed. Ano, it will invite an armed retaliation.
Yeah, what they
Diba?
could do is,
Kapag
ano,
weapons grade,
What-
hanggang itak lang yon.
What we do not know at this point is whether those facilities at Subi Reef, kung nag-status quo agreement, kasama din sila sa status quo agreement,
Oo
or
nga.
if in recent years they kept expanding those
Yes.
facilities. That's something we're not sure of right now. Because apparently, at
Yan
least
yung
during the 6
sinasabi
years of
ko eh,
Duterte,
di ba?
may status quo agreement yan. Dapat wala ring nadagdagan niya sa Subi
Oo.
Reef yan.
pero may nagtanong ba kung yung,
Oo nga.
yung status quo agreement is only for us or for both of us?
The understanding was it applied to both sides.
So they should,
That's
you
what
know,
the
Sides.
Duterte government was saying, that they were able to put a stop to the expansion of those facilities in the West
okay.
Philippine
I remember
Sea.
now.
Okay? Ang trade-off doon, apparently now, we're being told is that wala ring reinforcement or repair o construction materials na dadali naman doon sa BRP Sierra Madre.
Mukhang ang construction materials napunta dito sa mga artificial islands. Tingnan mo, may mga gubat na. May gubat, no? Tingnan mo, may...
Alam mo, Ronald, hindi gubat, landscaping. Maayos yung
Landscaping na yan, no?
pagkakatanim
Park
ng
yan
mga
eh.
ano yan, no? Talagang maayos, malinis.
Ang daming airfield, no? Diba?
Farm kaya kasi kung farm yun, if they're farming already, then they're trying to sustain life.
Pero walang laban yan kay Godzilla. Pag lumabas dyan si Godzilla, nawasak yan.
Yung agreement ba, kasama ba doon? Medyo malabo yun eh. Malinaw ba nakasama China doon? Parang ang understanding ko yung tayo lang yung mag-status quo, di ba?
Parang
Sa
both sides
BRP
ata.
BRP Sierra Madre,
When it
na
was
no new construction, yun na nga ang ikinikriticize sa mga Dutertes, di ba, na parang binenta na daw nila yung ano na you cannot improve but hintayin na lang na mag-deteriorate at mabulok at mag-sink. Di ba yun yung criticism sa
From
kanila?
that Reuters report in 2016 or 2017 or
Pati
thereabouts,
China.
I think it was reported to Congress, to the House of Representatives, na parang pinagmalaki ito ng Duterte administration that they were able to convince China to get into the
stop.
status quo agreement precisely to stop any expansion of Chinese facilities on the West Philippines.
Actually, nakikita natin dito the huge contradiction between BRP
Contrast.
Sierra Madre at saka yung mga isla nila, no, na para ng mga pogo hubs. Tapos yung sa atin ay nagsisimula ng gumuho dahil sa kalawang. Nakikita mo. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng status quo.
Status ko, malabo.
Yan yung status quo.
Kung status
Yan
lang
ang
nila,
status ko.
status lang nila ang maayos.
Tapos parang ginigisa
yan.
natin yung ating sarili nating mantika, kung galing sa atin yung pinang-reclaim dyan.
Yun nga yung report, dapat yan ma-imbestigahan din eh. Saan ang galing yung mga ano.
Because I
Yan, medyo
understand that
malayo yung Chinese mainland, ha? Where will they get that? That's a lot of construction materials.
Sa China kasi, pag trader ka, mawawala ka na lang. Sa Pilipinas, pag trader ka, may boboto ka.
Ayan.
Saka, Ami, mukhang isasama sa kaso si Kwan, ah. Si paborito mong ex-human rights lawyer, ah.
Hindi, naka cold order nga raw.
Oo nga, parang Kwan yan. Preparasyon yan para sa bigger cases.
Ay, hindi pa ata hold
Pero
order.
that's pogo,
It's called an immigration lookout
Yes.
order.
Lookout bulletin.
Yeah. Kukulitin ka lang sa
Lookout
immigration,
bulletin.
pero papakulang ka, di ba? Eventually.
Pwedeng hindi.
Ganun ba?
Yan ang ginawa kay GMA dati.
Hindi kaya yata mapipigilan.
Yan
Hindi
yung
ka
ginawa-
mapipigilan na
Pero Ami,
umalis.
yan yung ginawa kay GMA dati.
na kaya piniltasan dati si Justice Secretary Laila de Lima.
Lookout order din eh.
Pero pinigilan ng hindi dapat pinigilan dahil lookout lang dapat. Di ba?
What are
Hindi
you in
dapat
power for?
pinigilan.
You're saying that pwede rin mangyari to this time.
Hindi ko sigurado. Dahil alam ko kasi isang judge sa Pasay naglabas ng whole departure order. No? Inahabol eh.
After.
Hindi. During. Paano yung...
Kaya nga, during. Pero
yung
shouldn't. Okay.
lookout order, matagal na yon, no?
Okay.
Pero nung pumunta siya sa airport, biglang meron dumating na whole departure order. Yung
kaya
pagpasok na
siya
ng airport.
na-hold.
Kaya
So
siya na-hold.
hinabol.
Nahabol.
Kaya
Pero
siya na-hold.
without that court order, there's no...
Makakalabas siya. Makakalabas siya.
Hindi pwede.
Pero ang sinasabi ko lang, it was perfectly legal. Dahil may lookout bulletin, pero merong naihabol na whole departure order.
Hinabol.
Oo.
Okay.
Nahinabol,
Alam ko yung judge na yun, namatay sa COVID
Hinabol.
eh.
Yun.
Oo, namatay sa COVID yung judge na yun.
Kailangan habulin pa.
Gusto mo palabas.
Kailangan pa rin. The lookout order on its own is not sufficient,
Not sufficient.
to stop
Yes.
Secretary Roque from leaving the country.
Yes, malay mo, may humabol.
Kaya lookout
Notice
lang eh.
lang, notice.
Titingnan ka lang nila habang dumadaan ka.
Hindi, pwede kang bigyan ng konsumisyon.
Yeah, actually,
Oo,
yeah.
yung ganyan.
They can grill you, they can ask questions eh.
Or hanggang umalis yung aeroplano mo. Ay, sorry. Sorry,
Ay,
nakaalis
ganun ba?
na. Ano? Ay, nakaalis na.
Naka-daylight saving time ako eh.
Ay, sorry po. Ayun. Pero, kung kasama mo si Mr. Supranational, baka dalawa kayo hindi makasakay.
Kasama.
Hindi ko pa alam yung mga ano.
Sorry to ask, pero kasama ba siya sa hold, sa lookout?
Hindi ko, tingnan natin
Si
yung...
Mr. De La Serna.
Tingnan natin yung lista.
Tingnan natin yung listahan.
May 11 others eh.
Oh, may 11, oh. May 11 eh. So, posible.
Producer natin baka
Hindi, I think they're
kung may-
related to the
kung may
Pogo.
De La Serna dun sa listahan.
Oh, hindi daw kasama.
Producer hindi daw kasama.
Okay.
Bilis na.
So, pwede siyang bumiyahe nang hindi siya kinukonsume.
Baka naman hindi na siya kasama talaga sa hindi na siya binibilang na travel company.
Oh,
Ibang travel company na.
pero kailangan niya ng dollars para maglamerda, no? Eh nahanap naman yata yung bank account na dollar bank account sa kwarto niya sa Pogo Hub. Kaya baka meron na rin siyang naipon. Wala akong naispehwatig na pala
Matutroblong tayo.
statement of fact yun. Di ba nahanap yung dollar bank account?
Teka, ano pa yung story mo, Ami? Baka mamaya mapunta to eh.
Oo nga eh. Delikado na to.
Dagdagan ko lang yung Pogo. In-approve na daw ng COMELEC yung pagpa-file ng election case against Alice Go. So titignan natin, hindi nga siya mahanap. Ang dami-dami na niyang kaso. May arrest warrant siya sa Senado.
This election
Tignan
case,
natin kung
Ami,
saan siya makita.
is related to what?
To ouster.
To
Yung
what?
ano, yung
Falsification of citizenship? Parang
yung mga
ganon?
ganon. Yung mga ganon. Yung ganon yung hinahabol ng COMELEC.
So,
Actually, ang
mali-mali.
daming pwedeng isang pangkaso sa kanya eh.
I suppose hindi siya hahabol sa filing COC.
Hindi, sinabi naman niya, hindi na siya tatakbo, di ba?
Sinabi rin niya, Pilipinos siya.
2025.
Sinabi rin daw niya, Ami, Pilipino siya.
Anyway,
Nahahawa ka na sa katabi mo.
Tawa kayo, mamaya wala na yan dito.
Pustahan, oh. Pustahan, wala na yan dito.
Hindi makita-kita.
Ami,
Pero although ang usapan dito sa Chinoy community is still here. Yan lang naman ang ugong-ugong.
si Michael Yang din,
Yan lang
nandito
naman
pa
ang
rin daw eh.
ugong-ugong.
Si Michael-
Hindi, si Michael lang daw is in China.
As somebody who used to be in government and political affairs, madali bang tumakas?
Very porous yung ating southern border.
Yes.
Kaya hindi ako...
But when I say,
Madali.
yeah, it's porous, but does this mean to say if somebody likes to leave the country undetected, ano gagawin niya? How likely is it, for example, for Mayor Alice Go to just what does she need to do? Take a boat?
Well,
Magsagwat
if you
siya?
have
Papunta
private
West
plane.
Philippine Sea? I mean, is it possible for her to slip out through the airport?
If you have money,
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Yeah.
Naging mayor nga siya eh. Nakakuha nga siya ng birth
private
certificate
plane.
eh.
So there has to be
Etc.
negotiations along the way, parang ganon.
Oo.
To pass through all these security
Kung meron
checks.
ka mga contact na mga enablers, bibigyan mo lang ng tigi 1 milyon yun, labas ka na.
grabe ka naman sa milyon. Ang daming naghahalaw galing Zamboanga at saka
Isang gabi nga, may nagreklamo sa akin ng mga OFW eh. Ang hirap daw nila, ang daming tanong, daming harassment, pagdating nila sa dito sa Pilipinas. Tapos nakikita nila, mga Chinese, ina-escortan lang. No? Dumadaan lang sa immigration.
now?
No?
Hanggang ngayon?
Yung
Ronald?
may-ari
Yun ang reklamo nila. No?
Yung
Hanggang
mga
ngayon?
may-ari ng
tingin ko.
formally. Di ba yung may-ari ng formally, muntik nang makaalis ng Davao
Yes.
through the airport.
Yes.
Di ba?
Tingnan mo si Michael Yang, nakaalis na.
Kaya
I
madali
understand.
siya.
On a private
Si Michael
plane.
Yang, ang balita rito, he's already in China.
Si Michael Yang.
balita
Michael Yang,
dito
wala
sa
na rito.
community.
Pero walang record
Wala
sa
na nga, yun
immigration na lumabas.
Wala.
Oo.
Oo.
So what happens? You take
Pero
a private plane out of the
usap-usapan.
country.
Hindi,
Parang
ba-
ganon.
hindi ko
On a
sa-
secondary airport.
Kung sasabihin ko, hindi na ako pwedeng tumakas.
Sige.
May bala ka.
Sakaling wanted ako, di ba? Di ba isang batalyon nga ng mga tausog na invade ang Malaysia eh. Wala tayong kamalay-malay. Biglang nasa Malaysia na lang. Di ba?
Ito yung Lahad Datu incident. Some time
Yes.
back.
Isang batalyon yun, lumusob. So, talagang very porous yung ating borders. No?
Ang daming refugees nagpupunta ng Sabay galing
Yeah.
Di ba?
Sa Sabah, 1 milyon yung Pilipino ron eh. Sa Sabah,
Yeah,
1 milyon.
they speak the same language.
Oo, mga
Nagkakaintindihan sila.
Mga Iranon.
Nagkakaintindihan. So, kahit hindi ka nagsasalita ng ganung lengguwahe, kung yung may nag-i-steer ng barko mo, marunong, madaling magpa-ganun-ganun eh. Diba? Madali siya.
Sakay ka ng chopper, landing ka doon sa artificial islands ng China. O di, kung ka na, safe ka na. No?
Makikita ka ni Ray Powell.
Oo, kita ka na Ray Powell.
Okay, we have fresh survey from OCTA Research.
Yes.
Which tells us about it. Parang ang
Yes.
minap out nila this time is the shifting political
Yes.
alliances in the country. The
Yes.
last we heard, it was not naman split, but more or less, mas marami pa rin yung mga followers of this administration.
Paano?
Okay.
Paano mga 2 months
pero
ago?
it's interesting na it's interesting na 31%
Malaki.
ayaw kay Marcos and
Malaki.
Duterte. Sila Marcos 36 lang. Sila 16, ang Duterte 16. 31, napakalaki nun.
Yeah.
Kung idadagdag sila dun sa mga undecided na 11%, sobra-sobra na yon, ayaw talaga.
Yes.
Ayaw, none of the above. At saka isa pang significant yung opposition, napakababa.
Yeah. That was 2 months ago eh. Gumawa sila ng
Yes.
same survey na 31% ang Marcos, 20% ang Duterte, 4% ang opposition, yung traditional, tapos 15% yung undecided, and the rest ay ayaw sa pareho. No?
Ilang percent yun? You remember?
yung-
Yung ayaw sa pareho?
Yung ayaw
The
sa
last one.
Yung ayaw sa pareho 31%.
The last one.
Oh, last
So
the last
ngayon,
one, no?
is
Ngayon,
still,
31 pa rin ngayon.
pareho pa rin.
So hindi masyadong gumalaw,
Ngayon,
no?
31.
Ang gumalaw lang kung
Ang
sino
gumalaw,
masyado.
ang gumalaw yung
Nawalan.
mga pro-Duterte lumipat sa mga pro-Marcos. Almost
Hindi, parang lumipat sila sa independent.
Hindi,
Dito, Ronald.
yung 20% kasi ng Marcos naging 16. Yung ng
Duterte.
Duterte, yung Marcos tumaas sa
Duterte.
36 from 31.
By a few points, but I
Oo.
think a lot
5%.
more went to okay.
Yeah. Yung undecided bumaba ng 11%. So nabawasan yung
11.
undecided, no? Tumaas ng
Yung
konti
sa opposition, tumaas ng konti,
1%,
1
no?
So this is good news for the administration?
Well, if it becomes a trend, dahil kumukuha sila sa kanilang political rival. No? Doon sila kumukuha.
Heading into the midterms especially.
At hindi na sila ganun kababa sa Mindanao. May mga 25% yata sila sa Mindanao. Ibig sabihin, it's also an increase. No? Tapos marami ring bata yung sumusuporta sa kanila. If it becomes a trend, paborable sa kanila yan.
But this is
Pero
second
sa
quarter
Visayas,
pa.
yung ayaw ng both Duterte and Marcos.
Malaki.
Sa Visayas, ang pinakamataas, 41. Di ba that's significant? Kasi ang tingin natin nun, bailiwick nga ng mga yan.
Duterte.
Visayas and oo. Duterte country yan eh. Ngayon, 41, ayaw sa kanila pareho. Pareho, ha?
Ibig sabihin, Ami,
Kasi
yung unit team, yung pagkawasak ng unit team ay may epekto sa
talagang wala
pareho.
na.
At yung mga tao naghahanap ng alternative. No?
Kasi meron ding Visayan vote sila, Marcos, ha? Yun yung Romualdez vote eh.
Yes.
Yan yung Romualdez vote. Malakas na malakas din yan dyan.
Yes.
Pero biglang ngayon, ang taas-taas nito, 41%.
Shouldn't the classic opposition be benefiting from this? Pero and yet, para maliit pa rin
Oo
sila.
nga eh.
So what does this say?
Baba,
Para
very-
are people looking beyond unity, beyond classic opposition?
Well, partly
And
hindi
why
nila
are they disappointed with both?
partly hindi nila na-harness yung kanilang 15-16 million votes after the election. Parang tumahimik sila. If they were able to harness that, then they will be a significant force, no? Pero kung titignan mo, meron kang 30-31% na parehong ayaw. Sabi nga ni Ami,
Right.
di ba?
Ayaw.
So, kung sino yung makakakuha diyan?
None of the
Yeah,
above.
but my point being, hindi nakukuha ng classic opposition yun.
Well,
Yung
dahil
mga disappointed dito sa dalawa.
yes, dahil walang tumayo na leader. Di ba? Sino yung leader ng opposition? Walang tumayo eh. Si Lenny,
Is it just a question of that, or is it a question more-
fundamentally, because people are looking for a leader. Hindi naman sila naghahanap ng partido. Partido come and goes eh. Ang hinahanap nila is a personality. Nung nawala yung personality ng opposition,
You think Lenny could have drawn that crowd, that margin?
yes, kung ginawa niya immediately after the election.
Given how we came from a very polarized elections, okay? Mga diehard tong DDS at saka BBM,
Yeah.
was it possible even for Lenny to harness that?
Dahil
Yung mga
diehard din yung pink nun eh.
Yeah,
Kita mo yung mga rally nila eh. No?
Exactly. Iba yung diehard na pick. They might still be there for Lenny. Pero would Lenny have been able to win over this mga disappointed DDS and BBM to her side? Given how, we came from a very highly polarized elections.
Well, kung titignan mo yung numbers, nawawala yun dun, nababawasan pareho. From a historic 61%. Diba? Historic yun yung panalo nila eh. 61%. Ngayon, it's around...
I know, pero yung nalagas na yan, it's also very telling na hindi sila lumipat dun sa ano.
Dahil nga, walang
Sa opposition.
personality. Ang meron, personality, si Raffy Tulfo. Sa kanya pumupunta yon. Kaya hindi ako
But the
magugula.
classic opposition has known that for the last 2 years and they haven't done anything about it.
Yes, dahil nga walang leader.
Paano nga walang leader? Merong Lenny.
Hindi, nawala siya.
May Lenny, may Laila de Lima,
Chirisa.
meron tayong
Chirisa.
Rizal de Veros.
Oo, pero yung pagpasa ng baton sa isang bagong leader, parang hindi masyado na-consummate.
Baka masyadong literal ng pagpasa ng baton yung hinahanap mo. I mean, shouldn't it have become a more natural yung occurrence yung paglabas ng isang opposition
ang magiging natural diyan after the election, si Lenny, sinamahan, paano nakakulong pa si Laila noon eh. Lately lang naman siya nakalabas eh. Sinamahan si Risa, nationwide Thanksgiving tour, nationwide listening tour to harness that huge pink wave na hindi insignificant.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the pink wave, Ronald. We're talking about yung mga nalagas dito sa unity.
Well, kailangan ka magsimula eh. Kung sarili mong wave, hindi mo na consolidate.
What are the possibilities?
Paano ka pa kukuha dun sa hindi sa'yo?
What are the possibilities of that disgruntled or disappointed or disillusioned BBM unity people? What are the chances that they would move to a pink wave? Parang mas yun ang tanong ko eh.
Well, kung merong kung na-consolidate mo yung pink wave, pwede mo sabihin, told you so. No? Ang problema, ang humaharness na
Ayaw ng tao yung phrase na I told you so. Di ba? Parang may ganun. Nobody likes to be told I told you so.
Well, not necessarily. Dahil nakita naman nila kasi na walang nangyari sa unit team. Nagdabiyak agad. Ang problema ngayon, ang nakaka-harness niyan ay isang independent din.
Pero
isang Raffy Tulfo.
Wouldn't it be more let me just try to reframe yung question ni Patrick. Would it be more logical for the classic opposition to get from the undecided and from those who don't want, yung 31% don't want either of the two, kaysa sa kumuha dun sa dalawa na for the last 6 years magkaaway sila eh.
Ang sinasabi ko nga later yon eh. Meron kang 15-16 million na simulan mo muna ron. Pag na-consolidate mo yon, ito yung gagapang doon sa iba. Kung wala yon, sinong gagapang? Sino yung hahatak? Sino yung mangumbinsi?
So bakit hindi nila na-consolidate?
Well, siguro, after nung election, nagpahinga yung iba.
Nagbakasyon si Lenny.
Oo, nagpahinga. Tapos yung iba naman ay...
Ba't tayo mo sabihin nagbakasyon si Lenny?
Hindi, baka magaya ako kay Trillanes eh.
Baka ma-lookout order ka. Okay, we have to go into gap. You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a break. We'll be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. We've got the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Ed Lingao, and still with us, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, and Tito Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. At ako natitigil dun eh. And let's flesh out the recent OCTA survey with its president, Professor Ranjit Rai. Sir, magandang hapon, and thank you for joining us again.
Yes, good
Hi,
afternoon
Professor.
to all of you. Good afternoon to all of you and all our televiewers around the world. No?
Yes, sir.
Hi,
Sir.
Prof.
Sige po, mana.
Okay,
sir.
Professor, biggest winner and biggest loser in this survey and what it tells us generally, how it's shifting the political landscape.
Okay. This is just the second iteration of our. This
Right.
is the a second survey on a probe we started in the first quarter. This is a nationwide, a part of a nationwide survey of 1,200 respondents. No. And the survey was conducted from June 26 to July 1. And we asked basically the political preference of adult Filipinos. So we reiterated a survey that we conducted in the first quarter. And the results show that more Filipinos today identify as pro-Marcos at 36%. And this is an increase of around 5% over the last quarter. While those who identify as pro-Duterte went down from 20% to 16%, and a big chunk of our own citizens do not identify as either part of as pro-Duterte, pro-Marcos, or the traditional opposition, and they number around 31%. So in this survey, it consistent with the first quarter, a lot of independents, no? And the biggest loser, if in a sense, the group that lost, the preference that lost 4 percentage points was the Duterte, the preference for the Duterte family and their political alliance. So when we asked the questions, we also included pro-Marcos, pro-Duterte, the opposition, and support for neither of these categories. We call them independents, and then of course those who refused to answer. It seems like almost all the categories gained. Pro-Marcos gained 5% this quarter, so they're now at 31%. The pro-Duterte, pro-Dutertes, among the population lost 4%. They're now at 16. Okay, so let me clarify. The pro-Marcos is 36, pro-Duterte is 16. I support the opposition gained 1 percentage point, but of course it's well within the margin of error, from 4 to 5%. I am neither Marcos, Duterte, or the opposition. We call them the independents. They're now at 31%. They gained 2 percentage points from 29 last quarter. And those who were ambivalent actually was reduced from 15%, ngayon 11% na lang sila. So minus 4. So a lot of it went to either independents or the Marcoses.
So, Professor, yung mga undecided at saka yung neither Duterte nor Marcos ay around 42%. Medyo hindi naman ganun kalayo dun sa dating survey nyo na around 44% sila. 44-45%. So, hindi sila ganun kalayo. No?
Hindi ganun kalayo. And it reflects also all the other global studies that are available on Philippine voters also. That Philippine voters are moving towards the category called independent, and it's also reflective in our own surveys.
Ang tanong
ko, value survey. Yeah.
Ang tanong ko, Professor, parang hindi ko nakita sa webpage nyo, yung trust ratings. Halimbawa, trust ratings ni Sara at saka ni Marcos.
Okay.
Meron bang mga
kami. Yeah. Meron kami. They're going to be released towards the end of this week.
Yes.
To a viewing public, we are still processing the information.
Okay.
We will release the data by most likely the end of this week. Yeah.
Good. Offhand, Prof, gaano karami yung mga pro-Marcos na may trust rating pa rin kay Sara? At gaano karami yung pro-Duterte na may trust rating kay Marcos? doon ako interesado eh. No, yung trust rating.
Sir,
Hirap to na.
unfortunately, sir, hindi namin natanong yun.
Fairness pa nga daw.
Hindi
Baka
namin
kasi may
natanong
mga
yun.
pro-Marcos na may trust pa kay Sara. Baka may mga pro-Duterte na may trust pa kay Marcos. Yun yung gusto kong interface eh.
Mukhang kailangan
Yeah,
magkaroon ng
we
sariling
could.
research
Hindi,
ka pa.
mukhang lalabas yun eh.
Define trust.
Mukhang
Yeah,
lalabas
of course,
yun dahil
yun,
sabi nila ni Prof, meron silang survey about trust ratings.
Okay.
Yeah. We can find out. No. Let us just finish the survey on trust and approval. It was a different period from this particular survey, and once we finalize that, I'll release that, and then maybe we can have another interview, trying to cross
sir.
tab, they call it. No. Compare the data with what we have.
Yes.
As far as preference is concerned, that's an interesting question, Sec Ronald. No, let me see if I can get it out from the data set. No,
Prof,
and
is it possible-
we have that data. Yeah, Thank
Professor,
you.
as a political scientist, to what factors would you attribute yung increase dito sa support for the administration? And what factors influence naman yung decline of support for political support for the Duterte?
So ibang sombrero yan. Ibang sombrero yan tanong ni Patrick, Professor.
Unless you
No,
have
but it's
empirical
also data
evidence.
driven, yeah.
to back
It's also
that up.
based on the data rin.
Oh.
Actually, Patrick, when you look at the Pro-Duterte group, no, where they declined, it was in Balanced Luzon, in the National Capital Region, and in Visayas.
Sayas.
But in this particular survey, they consolidated even further sa Mindanao. Now 50%. So they declined everywhere except in Mindanao, which is also where the president, the pro-Marcos group, increased, no? National Capital Region, Balanced Luzon, and the Visayas. Only slightly sa Visayas, no? Significant plus sa Visayas. So these are-
Significant actually. Professor, tinanong niyo ba kung bakit? That significant na, banggit ko yung kanina eh.
Yeah.
Na bumagsak sila sa Visayas. Meron ba mga factors na sinight kung bakit nagkaganon? Or are you,
unfortunately,
ikaw
Ami,
as an analyst?
as an analyst, I think
As an analyst.
Yeah, I think there was a significant push in terms of government programs and initiatives in Balanced Luzon, NCR, and in what you call this, the Visayas during the period, the quarter before the survey was conducted. And siguro, that led to some improvement. I mean, it could also be the political noise, the impact of the political noise. I mean, it was very significant in the first quarter. And to some extent was resolved. Ayan, nandyan yung ating slides. Yeah. In the second quarter, with a greater, more consolidation of support for the administration.
Pero for both the administration and the Dutertes, bagsak sila sa Visayas. I mean, I'm just inferring from yung 41% na ayaw sa kanila pareho. Ang taas-taas eh, hindi ba?
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think, as an analyst na lang, what do you think is the reason for that?
I think the regular Filipino wants an alternative and they're not
Hindi,
satisfied.
sa Visayas mismo, specifically. Kasi tingin namin, bailiwick nila yan eh. Lalo na yung mga
that's
Duterte and the Romualdez group. Bakit bigla lang gano'n ang taas-taas?
Yeah,
That's nearly half.
Yeah, nearly half, no. I'd like to clarify, no. The pro-Marcos actually improved in Visayas in this particular phase somewhat. But the Visayas, the sentiment among our kababayans in Visayas is, I think, they're waiting for an alternative. Kaya nga may independence.
None of the
They're not
above.
satisfied with the performance of both, no? The politics being played by the Dutertes, nor the performance of the current administration. And you can see that also with our, we'll also release our our hunger and poverty data, where a lot of the poverty increased, hunger increased in many places, particularly in Visayas and Mindanao. So, all sort of mirrors also that sentiment, mostly dissatisfaction with the performance of the administration.
Prof,
So yeah,
Prof, is it,
so I think it's possible it could be all of these, all of the above that we discussed, no? The political noise, the socioeconomic climate at the moment, no, where there is a significant challenge as far as inflation and affordable food is concerned. All of these, and of course El Nino, the effect of El Nino, we cannot understate that, especially in Mindanao, where we saw many of these, increases in hunger and poverty, self-rated poverty in particular.
Prof, is it possible to trace or track the movement of the numbers directly? I mean, you saw a significant increase in one party, decrease in another. Is it possible to track the numbers na galing to talaga dito sa nawala at napunta doon sa lumaki? Or could it
I think majority, the impact is really there are less people who identify themselves with the Duterte camp now, no? Negative 4%. No, I would say that you could also argue that there are also a lot more people who used to be on the fence sitting, who they refuse to take the side, who are now taking the side of either an independent, but mostly pro-Marcos. Some people were convinced to join the opposition. You have to understand the opposition moved very nominally, but it seems everybody gained. All the major categories gained. No, pro-Marcos gained 5%. The opposition gained 1%, and the independents gained 2%. One could argue it's these are all within the margin of error, at least for
yes, sir.
opposition and independents. But they all gained. What the biggest decliner is the group associated with the Pro-Duterte camp. And it has to do with many things, diba? The noise, the resignation of the vice president could also be possibly a reason. The kind of political stance they have on issues, the controversies associated with the family, people they support. It could be a plethora of all of these issues.
Ang tanong ko, Prof, may difference ba yung term na ginagamit nyo na 5% at saka 5 percentage points? Parang may difference yun di ba? Magkaiba yung dalawa yung percentage at saka yung...
may 5% decline. So I clarify, 5% decline dun sa kanilang ratings. Sa 4% decline sa kanilang ratings. What I want to emphasize here is that klarong-klaro yung tanong namin when it came to the categories, no? So we say I support Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and his administration, okay? And then we put the term pro-Marcos. So the interviewee was cognizant that he or she was being classified, no? And then I support the Duterte family actually and their political alliance, pro-Duterte. I support the opposition. We also gave a definition, at least roughly, of the opposition by giving names of personalities and groups, no? And of course, the independents. We were clear na, they're neither the first three categories, neither part of the first three categories. So yan yung importante rin para maklaro na people wanted to be identified with a particular group.
Okay, Professor Rai, you were saying that the main story in this survey is how Philippine voters seem to be moving towards independence.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as you know, Professor Rai, do the respondents, do the voters associate independence with certain names, specific names or faces?
Dagdag doon sa tanong ni Patrick, Professor, dagdag sa tanong niya, nung last na nag-guest kayo rito, sabi nyo may ilalabas kayong survey na person-specific in terms of presidential preference.
Dali lang, dapat part of. Sagot muna natin yan para follow up. Di ba?
Okay. I can understand where Sec Ronald is coming from. Yes, to answer your question, Patrick, we didn't associate with any personality. This is just people defining their political preference, no, based on the categories that were available to them.
So as far as they're concerned, kasi Professor, yung independents are not the same as the undecided, right?
Yeah.
Or the ambivalent.
No, yeah.
So when you say independents, as far as at least from the point of view of the respondents or the voters, they simply mean ayaw namin sa Marcos, ayaw namin sa Duterte. Ganun-
Exactly.
Is that how?
Exactly.
Okay.
Sa opposition.
Yeah, exactly.
ayaw sa
Patrick.
opposition,
It's
ganun. Aha.
They don't identify with either the opposition, the current administration, which we classified as pro-Marcos, nor the pro-Duterte. So they must
as
be...
a
Professor, by
political, as a
opposition,
political
we're talking
scientist,
about
Professor.
we're talking about the traditional opposition, no? That's the pink and yellow groups. Medyo consistent yung performance nila, mababa na. May pag-asa pa kaya yung mabago before 2025?
I think so, kasi there are lots of independents pa, Ami. So they can be swayed, as you can see in the survey results. Some people who were undecided, who refused to answer or be classified, decided to be classified, no, move to certain categories, no. So a lot of things can change, no. What was interesting is that this formerly commissioned probe is now a regular, one of the regular probes of OCTA.
Okay.
And
Ronald, yung tanong mo.
hopefully it will be improved over time. But to answer Ronald, I think there are some personalities that have come out in the survey as very popular and consistent in the other probes, no? The Tulfos, very, they're gaining prominence, no? But that's not to say that Sara Duterte is not, a popular candidate also, no? But right now, as far as
But she's not running.
yeah. Well, anyway, but what I'm saying is that it's very hard to link this with a particular name or to say that the independents belong to, let's say, the Tulfos only. No, I think this is an open area of contestation as far as the political groups are concerned, including the left, by the way, because we weren't clear about where to put the left here. So they could comprise also the close to 50% of those who we classify as but a big chunk would be that
None of the above.
none of the above, and that's also good for politics because it's a lot of our own kababayans are open to supporting new causes, movements, and personalities.
Dati, Prof, naglabas kayo ng survey na 34% si Sara, 35% si Rafi Tulfo. Kung lalabas ba kayo ng similar survey in the near future na katulad yan?
Can you give us at least until next week? Kasi we're trying to release everything alam mo yun, in a series, in a way. So this week, please wait for our own trust and approval ratings of the top government officials. We are going to release, as requested by Ms. Ami Pamintuan, our survey on divorce. So kasi that we promised EB5 are exclusive. Okay. Next week we'll have all of that data. And Sec Ronald, I'll try to look at the mine the data for that cross those questions, no. Yeah. Are those who are pro Marcos also those who approve of him, no, or can somebody who is pro Marcos also disapprove? I believe so. Now you can have a low rating, but still frustrating of the president's performance, no? The low rating for the president's performance, low trust rating, no, for the administration, but still be a pro administration, no. You can be some kind of a respondent, no? So let's find out. Let's look at the data. Kung
Professor, you mentioned a while ago that the political noise being generated by the side of the Duterte has cost them some political points, no? Cost them some support. In the case of the BBM supporters, support for BBM, Professor, we saw a 5% bump up. Okay, to what factor do you attribute that?
If we just base solely on the data, there was an upswing in the National Capital Region, Alans Luzon, and partly in Mindanao.
So what happened in these places, Professor?
Well, it's possible government performance programs in those areas. No, it wasn't very clear that there was anything positive as far as Mindanao was concerned. As far as this survey, as far as the data provided by this survey. And that same thing goes for the Pro-Duterte camp. They lost some ground in Balance Luzon, in Visayas, a lot in Balance Luzon, Visayas, and the National Capital Region. So yeah, but just looking at the data, that's where they went down at the granular level. And in the case of the pro-Marcos, they improved a lot in the National Capital Region, Balanced Luzon, and Visayas.
Nakakatawa.
Sec Ronald, was I able to answer your question in some sense?
Yes,
Also?
partly. Natutuwa lang ako, Professor, dahil nag-overlap yung pagiging political scientist at saka political analyst. Dahil as a political analyst, we deal with educated guesses. As a political scientist, you deal with hard data. Kaya, ibig sabihin, as political analyst, medyo manghuhula tayo.
Tama. And right now, yun nga, yung reasons why, hindi clear pa at the moment, but it's significant yung changes, no, over one quarter. Bumaba ng 4 percentage point. 4% yung total number, no, from 20% of everyone being classified or preferring to be classified as Pro-Duterte to 16%. And I think we don't know if it's going to be a trend, no, but I think this can be a proxy, no, for looking at political preference. We'll try to improve the probe even more or add more probes, no, to measure preference. But it also shows that challenge, no, in the Philippine setting, kasi we're not organized around ideas, platform, programs, or parties.
Personalities.
It's to measure preference, except to look at it from this point of view, which reinforces, no, everything we understand about Philippine politics. It's organized around families, it's organized around ethnic and regional arrangements. No, when you look into the press release we provide the media, it was the bailiwicks, no, the pro-Marcos very strong, where they're traditionally strong, no, the Ilocos region, National Capital Region, and the Dutertes are strong mostly in Mindanao.
Okay, thanks.
Pero Professor, you can say na yung nakababa dun sa mga Dutertes, yung tuloy-tuloy na banat nila kay Marcos.
I think in both sides,
that's a
I think
factor.
the noise generated by both sides against each other may have contributed.
Okay, thank you for
Both
joining.
the upswing and the decline. Yeah.
Professor Ranjit Rai, thank you for joining the Story Conference.
Thank you,
Thanks, sir.
Professor.
Thank you for sharing our survey data. Thank you.
Okay, that was OCTA Research President Ranjit Rai.
Okay. Meron pa raw next week, di ba? Sabi niya?
Meron pa. Tsaka, yun, siguro next time po
Hahaba na overtime na.
Thank you for joining Storycon today. I'm Pamintuan, editor of the Philippine Star, and Tito Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Storycon. I'm Lingao.
I'm Patrick Paez. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.